All right, what's up? It's a March Roundup, so for those who don't know, basically once a month I put out a retrospective Roundup post on my Substack and blog and YouTube now. That's basically just a collection of the best podcasts, reading, projects, people, etc. that I found that month, so in this case in March. And yeah, just write a little bit about each one of them and why I think they're cool. It's just a way to kind of share some cool stuff that people are doing. And then I usually end with some personal updates too on like any projects I'm working on. So to start, we'll start with podcasts. Number one is a new podcast I found called The Social Radars, which just launched in March, I believe, maybe February. And the co-hosts are Jessica Livingston and Carolyn Levy, who Jessica's a co-founder of Y Combinator. She's married to Paul Graham. They started Y Combinator together, and Carolyn Levy is a partner at Y Combinator. And so, I mean, between the two of them, they've funded and advised thousands of startups. And they've launched a podcast where they're basically just going to chat with some of the most successful founders they know about sort of how they think about startups and launching companies and the lessons learned from that. Their early episodes are all really good. They talk to one of the co-founders of DoorDash. They talk to Paul Buchheit, who is the creator of Gmail. So yeah, they have great episodes, and they just dropped an episode with Gary Tan, who's the current president of Y Combinator. So check that out if you're into startups and tech. The next one is RT and Sriram's Good Time Show. So I've been really liking this podcast recently. Similar to Social Radar, it's a lot of startup founders and entrepreneurs that they interview, but also economists and online content creators. They interviewed Andy Weir, the author of The Martian, and yeah, they're married, so they just have like really great chemistry, and they have sort of a lighthearted approach, but they approach their interviews seriously, and they ask great questions. So check that out if you're into that sort of thing. The next one is two podcast recs that have to do with artificial intelligence and sort of the explosion of AI products that are being summoned from this large language model revolution that's happening right now. And so there's two podcast recs, each with one of the co-founders of OpenAI, which is the company that's kind of leading the charge. They made ChatGPT. So Sam Altman, who is the former president of Y Combinator, and Ilya Sutskever. So Sam was interviewed by Lex Fridman, and it's more of like a high-level social impact sort of conversation, the risks to AI, the timelines, and sort of how these products will affect society and social interaction and politics. And then the other conversation is with Dwarkesh Patel. He has a podcast called The Lunar Society, and that's with Ilya, who's the chief of science at OpenAI. So it's a bit more technical, but not too bad. Like, it's not like listening to a lecture. It's a conversation that's easy to follow. So check those out. I think it's really important right now to understand how these tools are getting made and how the people who are making them think about AI. And the impact it'll have, because pretty soon it's going to be akin to the smartphone revolution, where things pre-mobile and post-mobile are very clear, and the degree to which the iPhone changed our culture can't be understated. And I don't think that any of us would say that the jump from web apps to mobile apps is as big as what AI could potentially be. So I think it's important, and those conversations are great starting points. The next podcast rec is another one with Dwarkesh on his podcast, The Lunar Society. He interviews Nat Friedman. Nat is the former CEO of GitHub, and basically he's a really smart dude, smart engineer, but what really made this podcast fascinating to me is Nat recently partnered with a guy called Dr. Brent Seals, and they've launched this thing called the Vesuvius Challenge. So let me give you a little overview of what that is. So basically, we all know Pompeii and Mount Vesuvius erupted, exploded, and buried Pompeii. And recently-ish, they found a buried estate in what they believe to be a library room of a wealthy person, and they have basically recovered these ancient scrolls, but the scrolls are rolled up. It's on papyrus, and they are so fragile from time and from being covered in ash and mud for all this time that if you try to unroll them, they crumble, and so you'll never know what was written on them. And the first research teams that discovered these scrolls, they actually tried to unroll several dozen, and unfortunately those were destroyed and permanently lost to time. Later researchers tried to use technology to help unroll these scrolls, so they had one tool that would basically only unroll each scroll by like a millimeter a day. So it would take 24 hours to just barely unroll it, and even that didn't work. But now with computer vision and AI advancements, Dr. Brent Seals and his team have had some success with different scrolls, not these specific ones. And so Nat got interested in this, and they launched the Vesuvius Challenge to basically open source it and see if anyone can successfully decode one of these rolled scrolls without damaging them. And it's just really exciting. It reminds me of like a Borges or a science fiction novel, but it's real life. And the intersection of sort of ancient literature and modern cutting edge technology like AI just really scratches an itch for me. And Nat's clearly super passionate about it, so check that podcast out if that sounds interesting to you. It's super cool. And then the last podcast rec, so I'm reading Exhalation, which is Ted Chiang's second short story collection. If you don't know, Ted Chiang is kind of like one of the biggest sci-fi writers currently writing. He wrote the story that inspired the movie Arrival. And so I was super excited to start reading Exhalation, and I've loved it. Every story in it so far has just been basically leveling up and getting better with each one. So I thought, okay, let me look up some interviews, because I love listening to people talk about their writing processes and how they get their ideas, how they draft, and all that good stuff. I'm kind of a nerd about like structuring and just the writing process in general, and I love science fiction. And yeah, Ted Chiang has some great podcast interviews out there. One in particular I found, it's the Fiction Science podcast, I believe. It'll be in the blog post if you want to check it out. But it's a great conversation about artificial intelligence, our relationship with time, whether or not we have free will, and a lot of cool, heavy topics. Ted's really creative and clear thinker, so if you're into science fiction and writing, definitely check that out. Alright, so then I got 2 reading recs. I didn't do a ton of reading in March in terms of like online articles and essays. A little bit here and there, but I was reading Ted's work, so that took up most of my reading time. But I got 2 really cool recs. One is a post from Ted Gioia, who runs the very popular Substack, The Honest Broker. He's a music critic and writes really well about culture generally. So this is an essay called How an IBM Computer Learned to Sing, and this is in 1961. And Ted basically walks you through the research team at Bell Labs using an IBM computer in 1961 to perform the first ever song sung by a computer. It's a really awesome short blog post, and you get to hear the audio clip from the computer singing and the background of why they chose that song for the computer to sing. And actually it inspired Arthur C. Clarke when he was writing 2001: A Space Odyssey. And that's that famous scene in Kubrick's film where HAL, the supercomputer AI, is kind of devolving and running back to its earliest programs and begins singing the song that this essay references. That is an actual real part of computer history. So check that out if you're into computers and tech. And then the second piece is also related to AI. You can see it's been taking up a lot of my time and thoughts. It's called, but it's tangentially related. It's called First Word Art, and last word art, and it's by Michael Nymark, I believe is how you say his name. I think I've recommended it in a previous post, but I'm really thinking a lot about it because of AI. But basically the core idea is there's two types of art that Michael puts forward. There's first word art and last word art. First word art is like groundbreaking, pioneering work when you're exploring new terrain. And that's why I'm thinking about AI. And Michael talks about how in the realm of first word art, there are a lot of times when new technologies and tools come out and there's new art movements around those tools, the quality, the overall quality of the work drops because people are experimenting. And so they're not fully refined yet, and we haven't found the best applications of the new tools. So we're all exploring different territory and maybe sacrificing quality for that exploration. Whereas last word art is sort of when there's an established medium or type of art and you approach it to say like, I want to create the best version of art with these existing tools that have a long history. So I want to make like the prototypical lamp because there's thousands, hundreds of thousands of lamp designs. So if I wanted to create a lamp, I would be playing in last word art. But yeah, I'm thinking a lot about this concept with AI because it feels of the moment. Like right now, there's new AI products coming out every single day, and on Twitter, you see like countless demos on your timeline every day. And a lot of them, have been criticized as just being UI wrappers for OpenAI's APIs for GPT. And even I launched a product that uses OpenAI's APIs. And yeah, I think that's the zone we're in right now, this exploratory zone where maybe the quality is lower overall, but we're sort of pushing the edge and establishing what kinds of things LLMs will be best applied to. So it's a really good broad essay, but that's a specific way I've been thinking about it. All right, some other stuff. Oh, music. So basically my favorite musician alive today, Scott McMicken from the band Dr. Dog, has released his solo debut album. It's called Shebang. I've been looping it. It's so good. It's perfect for spring. I took a songwriting class with Scott at the very beginning of the year, and it's cool because I've gotten to sort of recall lessons about how he writes songs that he talked to our class about, and I can sort of hear where I think he's applying those lessons on his new album. But yeah, it's an incredible album, awesome, sort of some reggae influence, great percussive elements to it, a lot of dance songs, and then some deep sort of emotional songs. The album Closer I've literally been looping while I've been writing, and it's been awesome for that. So yeah, check that out if you like sort of indie music and world music. It's a fun album. And then yeah, just to wrap, I have some personal updates. So I mentioned I launched a AI product. So back in December, right after OpenAI released ChatGPT, I built one of the first ever Chrome extensions that lets you send and receive messages with ChatGPT without actually going to OpenAI's website. So just in the browser window, you have this little AI assistant with you at all times. And during that process of building that extension, I used ChatGPT to help me as a pair programmer. So when I ran into an issue, I would ask ChatGPT, hey, here's the bug error I'm getting. Like, what do you think could be the cause of this? What are some potential solutions? So I built a ChatGPT product with ChatGPT. So it's this really cool system that AI affords us now where you can sort of use it to invent better tools and better versions of itself, and that's what OpenAI is doing. But anyway, I launched that back in December, and I didn't really have a big launch or anything. I just put it out on Twitter, and it's been slowly growing. And so now we just hit 80 users, which is amazing. It's my most used product that I've ever built. So it's cool to hit that personal milestone. It'll be exciting to reach 100 users. But yeah, just some cool highlights. We have users in France, we have users in Malaysia, China, the UK, and of course the US. and a few other countries too. So it's just cool to see something I built in my little office here just because I had a cool idea being used around the world. So that's super awesome. If you are interested in using it, it's linked in the post, and I also have a setup guide if you haven't used APIs and AI tools before. That'll make it easy. So yeah, that was awesome. I launched it on Product Hunt on Friday too, just to sort of spread the word and find new folks who haven't seen it before. So that's fun. And then also in March, I spent a lot of my time on a new project called Cubicle. So originally, I called this project the Employee Productivity Portal, because basically what it is it's a productivity app I built for myself for work. And I kind of gave it this 90s aesthetic, this 90s corporate software aesthetic. And I kind of wanted to be cheeky and lean into that with the name. But eventually I was like, I feel like it's too tongue-in-cheek and not everyone will even get the joke, and it just is a horrible name outside of the joke. So I renamed it to Cubicle. It's simpler, it's cuter, and it still has that little nod to that 90s theme. But basically, what is it? Okay, so last year I established this system for getting more done at work, where I would basically work in these 20-minute productivity sprints. So I would set a Google timer for 20 minutes, and then I would set myself 3 tasks in Notion on a to-do list and say, hey, I want to get these 3 things done in 20 minutes. And then when the timer went off, I'd take like a 3 to 5 minute break, plan my next 3 tasks for the next 20 minutes, and just repeat that process all day. And then I'd have like an overall daily goal to-do list. Like, these are the 5 things I want to get done for the whole day. So each of those 20-minute productivity sprints was aimed at achieving those daily goals. So I had a Google timer in a new tab, I had my Notion app, then I used my calendar to visualize and block out obviously all my meetings because those interfere with my productivity sprints. And then I would use Notion just for notes that are relevant to the tasks I'm doing too. And so I kind of had all of these different software tools going on in the background for one thing, which is really these productivity sprints. So I built myself a web app that combines them all on one screen. So you can set 3 tasks for your sprints, you can set 3 daily tasks, and then it has a integrated timer right on the page. And then you can also integrate your calendar so you can view that with all your tasks in one place. And then it has a notepad for taking notes. And then I also just integrated Chrome GPT, my AI tool. So now if you have questions, you can just chat into your little AI robot friend and automatically get a reply from ChatGPT right in your cubicle. So it's super cool, it's been fun to use. And I've been building fun little Easter egg features that are kind of funny and playful. So like every 5 minutes or so, you'll basically get an alert that scrolls across the bottom of your screen that says incoming memo. And basically it's these memos that get sent to you from corporate, and they could be anything. They can be encouragement, like keep up the great work. They can be inspirational quotes that some are made up, some are real. And it's like fake company announcements for like, everyone meet in boardroom 3 for a cupcake celebration. New feature announcements when I do new things for Cubicle. And then also every now and then you get petty office gossip. And at first I hard-coded these memos, so there was like 6 options and you would just every now and then see the same ones again. But now I hooked up the memo feature to GPT. So it's using AI to generate them based on my prompt. So you never know what the memos will be. I never know. They surprise me when I use it. And you'll never see the same message twice. So that's been fun too, because I've seen some funny memos while using it. So yeah, that's what my month was like. What else on the personal side outside of the Roundup post? Tess and I have been walking a lot, which has been amazing. I mean, we've walked a lot for the past year or so, but especially now because it's really nice out, and we've been enjoying that and kind of walking longer. I had a knee injury at the very beginning of the year, on my first run of the year. So last year I started running a lot, like 3 to 4 times a week, and I really love it. I would run like 3 to 4 miles a day, or like, I would run 3 or 4 times a week, and those runs were 3 to 4 miles. But yeah, at the very beginning of the year, I just hurt my knee. And it took like a month and a half to feel better. I tried to run on it after like 2 weeks and it hurt again. If I would walk too long, it would hurt again. And finally, I've been able to start running like a mile and a mile and a half, like once, twice a week. So I'm getting back into it, which has been awesome. I'll have a separate video, but this Thursday, Doors Ajar comes out. If you didn't see my other video about it, this is an awesome literary magazine, and my first piece of fiction is in it on page 76. And this is hitting Barnes & Noble and Books A Million nationwide on Thursday, April 6th. So I can't wait. It's going to be so fun to go in and find it in the real world. This is my copy that got mailed to me from them. So yeah, I'm super excited for that. I'm on page 76, my story. It's called The Crack in the Sidewalk, and it's about this mysterious crack in the sidewalk that the protagonist finds. So that's going to be awesome. I've been able to read a few other stories and poems and stuff in here, and they're all really cool, so I'm really excited about having this out in the real world. I've been writing more, playing with other short story ideas. I recently wrote a very short 500-word short story while I was having coffee at one of my favorite spots. And yeah, I'm also working on this other story about this sort of strange physical anomaly in a meaningless, or not meaningless, but this strange physical anomaly that happens in an insignificant pond. And lately I've been playing with this idea in terms of writing for fiction, where I just sort of I write the first sentence and I don't even know where they come from. It's just like, this is a cool sentence, and then I just sort of go from there rather than thinking and blocking out a story concept more fully, which I've done too, and which is cool. So yeah, like one of the short stories I'm working on, I just was in the coffee shop, I have it here, and I just wrote this sentence not really knowing what it was. And at first I was like, well, this idea is kind of stupid, but I treated it seriously, and it turned into this awesome little short story that I really like. So you can see here, I wrote it by hand in the coffee shop, and the first sentence I wrote, without knowing why or what it was, is, I realized I was a tree on a Sunday afternoon. So it's just kind of this weird, silly first sentence that dropped into my head, and then I got a full little short story out. That's really nice. I really like the story. So yeah, I've been playing around with that, and the other story about that pond started in the same way. I was just sitting in the car listening to music, waiting to pick Tessa up from somewhere, and I just started the same way. So that's been cool. I've been spending my time doing that. And yeah, programming Cubicle has been awesome, and sharing that with the world. And just right now there's so many cool people doing cool things, it feels like on Twitter and things, and getting to share my writing and the projects I'm working on with that like circle has been awesome. So I've really found a lot of joy in that. I'm flying to see my brother at the end of this week, and we're gonna go to a Braves game at their new stadium. So super excited about that. Haven't seen a baseball game in person in like, I don't know, like 8 to 10 years. So that'll be super awesome. And yeah, that's basically what we've been up to. And so that's March. Appreciate it. Let me know what you think about any of these if you check them out. And yeah, I'll be back for April's Roundup at the end of the month. Sweet. Thanks for watching. See ya.